Alright, so in today's video I'm actually completing the front cover of the Batman and Robin commission I was given. So, like I said in my previous video, if you haven't seen it yet, I actually did a drawing on the back cover of Batman and Robin scaling a building. So if you want to go check that out, I do talk a little bit about my process, as I did start with the back cover before the front cover. The reason behind that, I'll give you a little bit of a recap in case you haven't seen that. I actually started with the back cover because I didn't know how my pencil crayons or my markers, my mediums would work on the paper, as this was the very first comic book cover that I've ever done. So I started with the back cover versus the front cover. My client actually wanted the front cover done to begin with, but have never done a comic book cover. I decided it was best if I actually did the back first instead of the front. My client actually said that I could do anything on the back. I could do a little sketch, little doodle, draw whatever I wanted, just play with it. He didn't really care, but unfortunately I do. This is a comic book cover. It's one of a kind, so to speak. Yes, there's multiples out there, but to me this is one of a kind, unlike your sketchbook paper or paper you pull out of your printer, that type of thing. So with this being a comic book cover, it's like one item you can use. If you screw it up, you screw it up type of thing. So I did the back cover in my last video. I'll put a little card up in the corner here, and it'll also be at the end of the video. You can click a link. But so I did the back, and now I'm doing the front. With doing the front, I had a lot more confidence on finishing this drawing because I already, oh look, hi, there's the back. But yeah, you get a little preview of the back. I flipped it over because I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right colors, and you guys actually got a preview of the back. But yeah, so doing the front, I was a lot more confident. I knew how my markers would work on the paper. I knew how my pencil crayons would work. And when I say pencil crayons, I've noticed a lot of people are like, what are pencil crayons? For those of you that don't know what pencil crayons are, they're colored pencils. I'm Canadian, and as Canadians, we do call our colored pencils pencil crayons. But they are the exact same thing. Oh man. Anyways, so my pencil crayons that I actually use are called Faber Castel pencil crayons. I really like them. They hold a very fine point. Something with Prismacolors is the tips can break very quickly, and if you put a lot of pressure on it, your tip of your lead can snap. So I actually use majority of Faber Castel pencils. There's actually a white pencil crayon there, so that's from Prisma, but oops. I find the white Prismacolor pencil to be a lot more opaque than the Faber Castel pencil. So I was using a little bit of the Prismacolor pencil, but I am definitely a fan of the Faber Castels, as I have a little bit of a heavy hand, and putting pressure and having high detail, Faber Castels can have a fine point with the tip of the pencil. Your pencil stays sharper longer, and you can put in that high detail. So I can't say enough good things about Faber Castels. So anyways, so with the front cover, as you could tell, I actually started with Batman's logo on his chest. In my last video, I mentioned that I like to start with my darkest values, because you can really work your way up from there. I did the black on his chest, so then I knew how dark I should go. And then from there, I went over to his cape, or his cowl. I put the blues in, and then I went ahead and I put the white on top. One of my favorite things to do with my artwork is putting the shine in, or putting the white stuff in, to make the drawing really come alive and to really make it 3D. And I really enjoyed that, and I was like, no, I must not finish that part. I have to move on. So then I decided to work on Robin. But yeah, I started with my darkest values, and then you can work your way up from there. With having a lot more confidence with the front cover, I was able to have a little bit more fun. I knew how the markers would react, and I knew how the pencils would react. So I just had fun, and I gave her. Something that I tend to do, which is a little bit, I don't know what to think about it, but I always save the worst for last. What I mean by this is I start with something simple, such as clothing, such as something dark, and then I kind of work with that. So right now you can tell I'm doing the clothing. And in portraits, the hardest part of them is like the faces. When you're trying to replicate a person, you want to get the exact detail down. Because if you don't get the exact detail down with their faces and the shapes of their faces and the little minute details, you can actually make somebody not look like themselves very easily. So, procrastination, I save the worst for last, and I really bite myself in the butt with that sometimes, because then I work so hard and diligent on the clothing, and then I get to the face and I'm like, oh, why didn't I start with the face? I have to say, it's very rare that I can't pull off people's portraits. I just go really slow, and I make sure I get the values in there and the shading in there. But at the same time, it's like, why do I leave the hardest part for last? Like, why not do it first? Get it out of the way. But for some reason, I always leave it to last. Something that I really like is using markers with pencil crayon. You put a base coat down with marker, you get in your basic values, and then you go on top with pencil crayon. I find that's a really good effect. It also gives a really nice texture to the drawing. Markers are very smooth, and they can be smooth and they can't be smooth. What I mean by this is, with markers, with the Copics, and I use Copics for my drawings, it can be very blotchy at times. When you're using them, you gotta put them in layers, and what can happen is you can have a lot of streaks if you're not blending them properly. By no means am I an expert at using Copic markers. I'm slowly but surely building up my collection. I have about maybe under half of all the Copics, and by no means do you need all of them, but I'm slowly building up my collection marker by marker. I did start with a 36 set to begin with. It was given to me as a gift, and then I bought a 72 set, and then I've slowly been buying markers here and there. Anyways, but with markers you can actually get them really streaky, and you can get them very not very smooth, so it can be quite a challenge to use markers. So if you do screw up, it's kind of nice to have that backup of pencil crayons to put on top, because then you can make it look smoother by using shading techniques and burnishing the paper. If you don't know what burnishing is, you push really hard into the tooth of the paper, giving it a smoother texture. So as you can see here, I'm actually using a little bit of jelly pen, or jelly marker, Sakura jelly pen, to get in those really high white details. I didn't want to use acrylic paint because it can be a little bit gloopy, and it's not very opaque. But I'm going in with some of the white pencil crayon, and it really brings in that depth. Like I said, it's one of my favorite things is to use white pencil crayon, white paint, on dark surfaces, because then it just makes the drawing pop. I remember working on Batman's eyes, I was like, oh my god, okay, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. It's so small, and what was awesome, and I've said this before, is the fact that this paper, or this comic book cover, is actually really good when it comes to markers. There is no bleed, at least what I found, there was no bleed whatsoever, and so I could really get those fine details in, because I go in with the marker, put in my base coat of color, and then I go on top with the pencil crayon. So the fact that it wasn't bleeding because I wanted to keep the white of Batman's eye. It was really great. I didn't have to go in with any jelly marker or white acrylic to try and fix that. So, but as you can see, I'm leaving his face till last. Why? I don't know. I like to torture myself apparently. I think the thing too about people is there's a lot of pressure when it comes to doing people. You have to get their exact look, so then you have to be really like high detail and like really focused. And I think I moved away from people recently and started doing animals because you have so much more freedom with animals. Sure, if you're doing a portrait of somebody's pet, you want to make sure you get it exact because people look at their pets every day, right? So then they know the tiny details of their pet. Especially when it comes to people, oh Malanta, you really got to get their details in or else they do not look like themselves. But I've been having so much fun doing animals, and they're just relaxing and freeing, and you just don't have to worry about the minute details, and you can change them up to as you want. And when I say animals, I say like wild animals. So one of my favorite animals is lions. I actually finished a lion commission recently for a point commission off of Twitch. I stream on Twitch, so by watching me live, you can actually collect points, and then from there you get free commissions. So I finished a lion recently, and it turned out really well, and I was really sad to see it go, but it is going to a wonderful home, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, I've been having so much fun doing animals, and I actually started recently I started it a while ago, but I actually started coloring my Walking Dead blank comic book cover. That's always a mouthful. But I started coloring the drawing of Rick, and I post my work in progresses on Patreon, so if you want to see any work in progresses, I suggest you go and support me on Patreon. I don't post any work in progresses anywhere else. You get to see behind the scenes, you get to see what I'm working on, but I'm having a lot of fun with this blank comic book cover, and it's turning out really well. It's a little more of a sketchy feel compared to this very polished, very finished drawing of Batman and Robin, so it's going to be quite a few videos away before you'll actually see that because I am so backlogged on videos. I'm just so inspired to do artwork, and I'm just like having so much fun drawing all the time and just filming that I have no desire to edit anything that I have filmed over the last year. Mind you, my editing software is a piece of junk. I need to upgrade that, so hopefully one day, eventually, in the future, maybe someday. But I also need a new computer, so I feel like it's almost a waste to get editing software for this computer, because it's such a... I always want to call it a beast, but people think good computers are a beast, like, oh my god, the computer is such a beast, it's awesome. But when I say it's a beast, it's a piece of junk, and it's on its last legs, and I'm saving up for a new computer, so hopefully by the end of the summer, maybe in the fall, I can get a new computer. Yay! But I'm coming to the end of this video. As you can see, I'm doing Robin's face, and of course I left the worst for last, in my eyes. Why do I do that to myself? I need to stop doing it. Just do it first. But I was super nervous about the covers, but they turned out wonderful. My client is super happy, super stoked. When I gave it to him, he had his eyes closed, I put it in his hands, he looked at it, and he was like, is this a picture? It was super funny. He was like, you didn't draw this, this is, what? And he was just like, jaw-dropping, like, holy crap. He was just so amazed, and he was so happy with the result, and he talks to his brother about it, and he loves it, and I'm so happy he loves it, because I did good. And he got his money worth, and it worked out well in the end, and I'm super happy with how it worked out, and I'm looking forward to this other cover, and I think I'll do more in the future, because these are fun and interesting. But, oh, I was going to say something else. Oh, shuckaduck. when he saw the back cover, he thought it was really, really cool too. So he really liked it, and then when he put it in his sleeve, he couldn't decide if he wanted to showcase it from the front or from the back. So he kind of flips it back and forth. So, but it's awesome. It's great. My first blank comic book commission cover, and it turned out wonderful. I'm very happy with the results, and I hope you guys really like it too. I had a lot of fun doing it. Thank you so much for commissioning me, because I'm sure my my client, I always want to call it commissioner. Get it? Commissioner Gordon? Oh boy. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all your views and your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. Hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe for some more videos in the future. Follow me on social media. If you want to support my work, you can do so on Patreon or come watch me live on Twitch. But you guys have a wonderful day. We will see you next time.